Here is my audience. Thank you for gathering here today with me. My name is Kristina and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a man who caused great waves in this world when he was here. You must not lose faith in humanity. Humanity is like an ocean. If a few drops of the ocean are dirty, the ocean does not become dirty. These are the words that Gandhi Jayanti lived by every day of his life, as cited in the Indian Journal of Political Studies. According to the Mahatma Gandhi biography, Mahatma was added as a title to his name. Mahatma means great saint. He was viewed as saintly, not only because of the simple white clothes he wore, but because of his way of being in this world. Mahatma Gandhi's views and testimonies greatly impacted the world and continues to hold a place here today. His values were based upon three solid principles: nonviolence, home rule, and welfare of all. During Gandhi's time, he created three major movements that reflected his essential beliefs: the non-cooperation movement, the Dandi movement, and the Quit India movement. Gandhi's first movement, the non-cooperation movement, is as simple as it sounds. As stated on Britannica.com, the directions were to non-violently boycott anything manufactured by the British, as well as avoid institutions aided by the British. This movement was in response to the start of the Rowlatt Act. The Rowlatt Act was the right to put anyone in prison for even being suspected of resisting against authority without a trial. Could you imagine that today? You can be caught on camera doing something and you still get a trial. This action of civil disobedience was the match that started a wildfire, and as that fire burned, so did the fear of foreign authority begin to disappear. Many Indians were killed during that time by British-led soldiers, but the movement never strayed from its original goal to be nonviolent. The non-cooperation movement lasted for about 2 years, from 1920 to 1922. Eventually, Gandhi himself was arrested for sedition and spent the next 2 years in prison. The second major nonviolent movement was a 240-mile walk from Ashram to Dandi, a small village on the Arabian Sea. Reference from MSNBC's Gandhi's Nonviolent Journey That Changed the World. The purpose of this march, also known as the Salt March, was to spread awareness across all nations about Britain's unjust salt laws that forbid Indians from producing and selling their own salt. After the 24-day walk, Gandhi and his followers disobediently evaporated water and produced their own salt. Of course, the British were not happy about this, and in return arrested tens of thousands of protesters. But they could feel the critical impact of this movement, and as a result, an agreement was made in 1931 to end the protests in exchange for the release of the arrested protesters and an end to the salt tax. Gandhi's journey was far from over because India still didn't have its independence from British rule. Now on to the third and final movement, the Quit India movement. This movement is still highly discussed today because plenty see this movement as a failure, whereas others say that it was the start of the success of India eventually regaining its freedom from the British rule. This was Gandhi's protest to declare immediate independence from Britain and was led by Vinoba Bhave. Britain had wrongfully entered India in World War II, and in India's opinion on the Battle of Britain was divided. Some wanted to help with the war, hoping for their own independence in return, while others felt that this was Britain's well-deserved karma. As Britain made it clear that India wouldn't have freedom until after the war, Gandhi gave his memorable do or die speech. This speech urged all Indians to either live for freedom or die for freedom, but to not continue watching slavery spread. This speech accumulated many followers, even those who didn't necessarily agree with Gandhi's nonviolent concept, as reported by the Harvard universities. Words spoken by Gandhi during this time: It is wrong to help British efforts with men and money. The only worthy effort is to resist all war with non-violent resistance. In the end, the ethics Gandhi represented always remained consistent with his actions. He encouraged peace among everyone by interacting peacefully himself. Controversy continues today regarding who really brought the final freedom to India in 1947. Some historians believed it was the millions moved by the Quit India movement, while others debate that it was the Royal Indian Armed Forces who broke the British regime. Though one thing remains certain to this day, Mahatma Gandhi provided a layout for new coming leaders, protesters, and activists. He laid down a solid foundation for you and for me to not fear foreign oppression, but to peacefully and non-violently protest our own freedom. Is everybody still here? My audience is still here.
Trouble. I thought you said, yeah.